as I look at this Cavs team, Dan Gilbert, I'm a little worried. Because LeBron James, I hate to, I've talked to some of my friends, and in particular, I like what Gabriel Wilkins said, and he's made it pretty clear that LeBron does not like Dan Gilbert. And the more I've read into the situation, the more I agree with Gabriel, because that letter that Dan Gilbert wrote about LeBron, I felt like it stuck with LeBron. And he always held it against Dan Gilbert. And Gabriel told me something very interesting. He said that I believe he tried to get the Pistons owner and the Cavs owner to swap ownership of their teams because Dan Gilbert owns so much property in Michigan. And I think it was because he doesn't like Dan Gilbert. Now, the fact that he tried to do that, if that's true, is insane and just goes to show I don't think Michael Jordan would have asked them, hey, can you have Jerry Reinsdorf trade teams with another one? I don't like him. You think Michael would ever say that? I don't think so. And if that's true, that just goes to the fact that LeBron thinks he owns everything, and I don't like that. Just because you're the best player in the world does not mean you own the league. You don't control what goes on everywhere in the league. What's next? We just have LeBron make up the draft lottery rules? Is that it? We have LeBron pick who gets the number one pick or something? I mean, come on. It's just ridiculous that he could actually request that. Now, of course, I'm glad it didn't happen, but the fact that he had the audacity to request something like that is mind-blowing to me. You know what I love? We're seeing the arrival of the big man, the new wave of the big man.
Mm-hmm. And we talked about that a couple of weeks ago.
I told everyone, I said, you guys don't realize this, but Dirk Nowitzki might be the most important player to ever come into the NBA. If you look at guys who played back then, the guys like who played in the early 2000s, we saw the type of guys that were going to revolutionize the game. They just didn't. They played the old school way. Rasheed Wallace would be amazing today. Chris Webber. I think Chris Webber would be a Hall of Famer. I think he still is. Yeah. I think Chris Webber would be one of the 10 best players in the NBA if he played today.
Could you throw in Peja Stojakovic?
Peja was one of those.
Good shooter.
Peja would have been like. I think Peja was a much better version of like a Kyle Korver-Dougman. Like he was what, or like I think he was like an all-star version, like a Kukoc or like a Nico or whatever he could have been. Because Peja was a great player, but look at those guys and you think, those guys wouldn't have been great at what they did, and it really. Or you look at a guy like Bob McAdoo was a stretch four. People don't realize that he did that. I mean, Barkley could have had a 3-point shot. A lot of these guys that played, like a guy like Sam Perkins would have been very good today. So a lot of these guys, they played down low. But we saw like the makings of what would eventually come. And when you've got a guy like Nikola Vucevic, who also, I got to point this out about Vucevic, and this is one of these guys that, folks, I have loved his game for years. Vucevic has been one of the most consistent and most underrated big men in the NBA since he's gotten to the league. And let me just tell you what he's done in the last couple of years. 2014-15, 19-10, 19-11. 2015-16, 18-9. Now, last year, he took a bit of a dip in scoring, 14.5 and 10 rebounds, but his minutes were down, and he didn't start in 20 games. This year, 19 points, 8 rebounds, and he has added the 3-point shot to his game. At 27 years old, he's in the prime of his career. That is a shot you need to have if you are going to be a great big man in this league, or at least a consistent threat that they can play on the court at most times of the game. Now, guys like Drummond and DeAndre are the exception, or a guy like Whiteside, but Whiteside's 7'2" and can do so many things like rebound better than almost anybody. Drummond's the same way, Dwight Howard the same way, DeAndre Jordan the same way. So they can affect the game in different ways than those guys. But you still should have a 3-point shot in your arsenal. It's always important. It's always a nice thing to have. It's a young season. And there's going to be a lot. It's just going to be a lot going on. But on that note, I'm going to say goodnight here, folks. Thank you for listening in. Have a good rest of your weekend. Stay safe. And by the way, just want to shout out, happy birthday, Mom. Her birthday's Tuesday. Can't wait to see you. Can't wait to see you Monday, Mom. Have a good weekend, folks.